So guys, I recently picked up this inverter from a sale where you got two 18 volt 4 amp hour batteries, a charger, which I think I gave away, and a tool, being the inverter, for free from Home Depot. The cost was $99 total, which is really nice actually, as off sale the batteries, the inverter, and the charger would probably cost closer to $200 to $250. Ryobi Days has some really nice promotions at times. I mainly got this for its ability to be used to charge my laptop while riding in a vehicle. Most of the time my laptop finds itself dead even when I shut it off because of Windows deciding to wake it up or power it back on to check for updates or whatever BS. And even when I disable this time and time again, Windows just re-enables it. Seriously, Windows, screw all of your BS. It also does this with the PC in my room too, waking me up at night and wasting power and heating up my room as the PC refuses to shut itself back off. Ever. Even when the timers are unable to do so. Anyways, I could use a lighter port in a vehicle and carry around, you know, an inverter. But many times those lighter ports are already taken up in a lot of vehicles. They don't work, they can overdrain a battery if left on and you're not careful with what you run. And for the vehicle I ride in, for some reason it has a horrible design where whatever you plug into the lighter port just pops back out because it's too shallow to lock in properly. I have many of these batteries lying around. I love a lot of the Ryobi tools, and I take advantage of sales like this or bundles often, so I can just grab the inverter, one of my mini batteries, slap it in, and head out. Now, I did get this from my laptop initially, but I realized something. This thing has some serious awesome potential to be used for a combination of other things, such as a general and highly portable work light, an extremely high-powered flashlight, and even an emergency backup light in case of outages that may potentially last for days in between charges, assuming that you're not running it 24/7. And this is beautifully simple to do. To not waste your time, I'm just going to show you it right now. If you haven't already figured it out, that is. But I hope you'll not just click away right after I do and instead stick around for a bit, as I spent almost a week testing different lights for run times and figuring out efficiency along with other tests that I will cover here. So, all you have to do is get a simple wall plug to E26 or E27 adapter, or whatever your bulb base may be, and plug it in. Boom, you're off to the races. Now this is a highly portable light that is as bright as a regular room bulb, because it literally is. You can even run a splitter and have two of them. Now you may think that this wouldn't run for a very long time, but you may be surprised as my testing covers. But first I do have a complaint. Ryobi, I do not like this plug. When you're using just two prongs, it is inexcusably loose. The plug does hold in, but the wiggle tolerances are poor and you should definitely fix them. Look at that. For me, to prevent this plug from suffering damage over time, I picked up a grounded plug brick and I'm using that instead in the inverter, as having the ground prong adds a lot of stability. You see that? This right here is how the plug tension should be. There's almost no wiggle at all. Again, Ryobi, I'm disappointed, even though I'm usually rather happy with your tools. Moving on. So there was a couple of bulbs I tested. The first is this filament style LED that has an excellent efficiency because of its ability to run the LEDs essentially off of wall voltage instead of needing to step them up or down. It has a great power factor, and at 7.5 watts and 860 lumens, it's about 114 lumens per watt, which is definitely respectable. That's about as dark as I can make the shutter exposure, unfortunately, so it still swamps out the camera a bit. I could get like a neutral density filter, but I'm not going to do that right now because I'm lazy. These 4 amp hour batteries come out to 72 watt hour, which actually specifically goes by the cell rating and usually is slightly less in practice. So I'll call it about 70 watt hours. So if we take the 70 watt hours and divide it by the 7.5 for the bulb, we get an estimated runtime of about 9.33 hours. But that isn't how life goes, because this isn't a perfect world, and going from DC to AC in the inverter is going to result in losses that vary based off of the load. Also, the inverter will have running losses, meaning that even idling, this will consume an X amount of power continually. Also, power factor, which is losses you don't normally see in your house but affect generators, inverters, and other sources of power, meaning additional losses if the power factor is low. I made an estimate based on a few factors and assumed that we would get about 50 watt hours for the light to actually use, which divided by 7.5 watts would mean a runtime of about 6.66 hours. Oh. Well, anyways, I did the test and I found out that a full charge 4 amp hour battery till shut off was able to run this light for 7 hours and 20 minutes, which actually meant we got about 54.975 watt hours going toward the light, which is pretty goodly close to my estimate. Again, this is 7 hours and 20 minutes for a super bright regular room light. That is pretty much an all-day portable light at a job, working under a sink, doing plumbing, or in a dark closet painting, out in a shed organizing, or in any unlit area. Plus, its super high efficiency means very little waste heat is being generated. So unlike with a traditional light bulb, you're not cooking yourself in the process of using it. I literally can just hold my hand on here indefinitely because it's so cool to the touch. Keep in mind though, you shouldn't actually run a lithium battery completely dead. It is really bad for it. I recommend trying to charge whenever it gets below 25% for the longest long-term battery life. So assuming you have 2 of these batteries and you swapped them out at 25% charge, you'd be able to get about 5.5 hours each. So about 11 hours total running this light. Technically, by the time one runs out, you could have the other one easily charge back up, but let's say you don't for hypothetical reasons. I still think that's pretty cool. If we use the theoretical 72 watt hours of the battery and the 7.33 hours runtime, we get a consumption of about 9.823 watts per hour for this light. Now we move on to a more common LED type, which is this older style chip light. This is not as efficient as the filament style LED because of needing to convert the 120 volts AC to a much lower value in order to use it. It also has a bad power factor, meaning more non-immediately apparent losses. It's rated at 9.5 watts and 800 lumens, meaning about 84 lumens per watt. Not exceptional. Worse off, I tested with the power meter and found it to be way out of spec, drawing 11 watts of power, meaning only about 72 lumens per watt, which is pretty bad. This is a new bulb. The rest of the box was poor also in terms of this. Bad on you, EcoSmart. Normally I am a fan, but not for this time. The power factor isn't great either, but okay, which again means more potential invisible losses. Based on my estimates, I theorized it would last about 5-ish hours on the inverter. What I found was a runtime of about 5 hours and 35 minutes, which comes out to about 61.41 watt hours going towards running the light, with it drawing 11 watts. So markedly better conversion efficiency than with the filament bulb, though a lower overall runtime, which again actually isn't surprising, given that by running the inverter less time, less power is being wasted running the inverter circuitry. Also, inverters may run more efficiently at certain draws than others, a lot of times poorer at very lows or very highs. Based off the difference between the two lights' runtime, I estimated probably somewhere about 2.5 to 3.5 watts per hour going to the inverter running and conversion losses. Okay, now let's move on to the Big Daddy light. This is a cool concept, which is this inverter lets you use whatever light you may want to, including this ultra bright floodlight. I got this for $6 on sale, which is quite a lot for a single bulb, but its quality seems to be good, and at 1500 lumens and a 40-degree viewing angle, this thing is insane in terms of brightness. This I wouldn't want to use as a work light, but it definitely works well as a flashlight and will light up a block of the neighborhood when on. It's pretty BA. And again, you get all of this versatility with a single inverter and battery purchase. This thing draws 17.5 watts. It's insanely bright. This thing draws 17.5 watts, which in testing was pretty close. It also has a beautiful power factor of 0.98, meaning almost no additional losses. Another thing is a CRI of 90+, which can be nice, especially when trying to see things clearly in the dark. That is a color rendition index. Its lumens per watt efficiency is 85.714, which isn't stellar, but still not too bad. So how long does it run? Well, for me, it ran for 3 hours and 75 minutes. Yes, 3 hours and 75 minutes on this battery. For that brightness of light, that is insanely cool. That means we had about 65.625 watt hours going toward the light. Again, another efficiency bump. But with this light, its weight does mean I need to support it some, which makes carrying it around much more inconvenient. Again, a better plug Ryobi may fix that. So now we move on to the last light we will test, which is a humble 1 watt filament style bulb I got with a set of different colored lights on Amazon, which I will link in the description, assuming that it's still around. With a claimed 100 lumen at 1 watt, that would of course mean 100 lumens per watt. Its power factor is only 0.81 though, which is not particularly great. Also, the light does not seem to have any smoothing built in, which means it has a 60 Hz flicker that most don't notice, but for me it drives me crazy, especially when objects are moving around. At only 100 lumens, it's not super bright, but keep in mind this application would be for a long-lasting emergency light like during a blackout, something you can cook and navigate and read by, which this is plenty enough to do without a doubt. I actually have used this exact light and inverter during some blackouts we've had recently. I estimated it would last about 22 hours. Reality though was much less. I only got about 19 hours and 20 minutes out of it. Probably just because of worse efficiency at such low loads. That means that a mere 19.33 watt hours went toward powering the bulb, while the other watt hours were lost in the inverter. In a perfect world, this battery should have powered this bulb for almost 3 days straight. I plan to actually make a bulb that can run off of these batteries directly, that can last for that long in the future, so stay tuned for that. Still though, that was almost a 20-hour runtime on a single charge, and assuming that you would use the light for say 6 hours a day at night, that means you'd be able to use the light for around 3 1/3 days. You could also probably charge up these batteries using solar or a car charger, which I may go into in the future, meaning that even for extended outages, you can still have light. These inverters are quite cool, and I'm happy to have mine now. Another thing I thought of too is if you pick up a UV CFL bulb, check it out, you now have a portable UVA light for who knows what projects or cleaning or whatever. No cord to hold you back. That is pretty sweet. I actually did a video where I used this light, this inverter, with a reflector I made out of a pie tin that I will link below if anyone's interested. See the phosphors on the filament for this other bulb getting excited. Anyways guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. If you would please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, I'd like to thank you, my awesome Patreons, as you guys are the lifeblood to this channel. And if any of you would be interested in supporting, I'd really appreciate it too. Links to some of the stuff like this bulb, you know, some of the other bulbs, different various things will be down below, likely through Amazon because buying from them will support the channel at no cost to you. But some of these things are definitely better, like the inverter and batteries, to directly get from Home Depot if you can on sale. So I'll link those below the video. Here's a cool one too. I didn't actually test this one. My friend brought it by after I had already done all the testing, but there was this bulb here that was named by the previous owner of it as the Sun. And there's a reason why for that. This is about to get bright. Yes, so This bulb consumes supposedly 20 watts and has a lumen output of 2,500 lumens, which one of these bulbs being like 860 lumens means that this bulb is basically 3 of these bulbs. Hence the terminology, the sun, because it looks like the sun on yeah, you know what I mean, right? They had a light burn out, and somebody replaced the light that had burned out in their lamp with this light, and yeah, they said it was just a teensy bit excessive. Can you believe that? Oh man, I love this little inverter. It's just it's so handy. You could plug an extension cord in, you could do whatever. I've actually found a lot of use out of this. Laptop charging, lights, everything. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it, and bye.